Accidents include overspeeding, drunken driving, distractions to drivers, red light jumping, avoiding safety gears like seat belts, helmets, and non-adherence to lane driving, and overtaking in a wrong manner.
Ebola virus disease in the whole country, the Uganda district leadership and the health department have jointly formed a task force to create awareness to the community in order to help fight against the spreading.
Following the increase on the spread of Ebola virus disease in the country, the Uganda district leadership and health department have jointly formed a risk task force to create awareness to the community in order to help fight against the high spread of the virus. It's on record that on Friday, 23rd September this year, a person with Ebola-like symptoms was admitted in Kashagama Health Center 3, which prompted the health department to take the immediate caution and samples of the patient to the Uganda Virus Institute for examining. However, it later came out that the patient was negative. The administration has so far decided to strengthen and form a risk task force to stop the spread. On a condition, the tax operators that enter Mwende district from the Antonde have been urged to take precautions upon this, and people's lives must be saved.
Thank you so much for the decision of Ebola. While speaking to our reporter, members of the parliament have criticized the Ministry of Health for not doing much to sensitize the public on the causes, effects, and also prevention of Ebola. They asked the government through the Ministry of
olaba waliwo obulagajjavu eri minisitule ya health kubanga olwaleero tetunalaba bulango bwogera ku Ebola ku TV ku radio eriyo n'enakaseke ku local radios tebiriyo. So olaba nga waliwo obulagajjavu n'obutafaayo eri ministry evunaanyizibwa ministry ya ICT, ministry ya health. Olwaleero bonna bandibadde bali ku ground mu kusensitizinga abantu naye tebannaba kukikola. Ekyokubiri, tetwagala ministry ekozese mukisa guno batwale ensimbi z'omuwi w'omusolo. Bannaffe balo bajja kujja wano basabe supplementary budget kati mu at the end bo bagenda kuzikozesanga ensimbi ezaabwe. So kyetulowooza nti baleme gutwalanga mugano gwa nswa, bannaffe ensimbi bazijjeyo oba oliawo bo bakolemu byabwe. Kyetulowooza nti zino ensimbi z'omuwi w'omusolo mu kaseera kano akazibu nga yakava mu biwundu bya COVID kati agenze mu biwundu bya Ebola. So kwegamba ng'olwaleero kilo ya sukaali eri ku 15,500 nakaseke, amafuta gali waggulu, omuti gwa sabbuuni bangenda nakaseke gwayingidde omutwalo gumu 10,000. Kwegamba tuli mu dairema naye bannaffe bayinza okukozesa omukisa gwa Ebola ate ensimbi ne balyandi.
Tegeere ambulance zagulibwa mu bungi n'abasawo ababadde bazitambuliramu n'abaddereva bazivuga nga balina experience okwandolinga highly infectious patients bakyaliyo ku mirimu oba bayimirizibwa. Awo tujja tutandikira okutegeera obunafu bwe tuli nabwo oba advantage gye tuli nayo mu kwaŋŋanga Ebola. Twagala tumanye ebyuma ebyagulibwa okukebera COVID-19 ku malwaliro ag'enjawulo babiprograminze okusobola okukebera Ebola oba tebannaba. Tulina omukisa nti COVID yatusobozesa okufuna ebyuma ebyo naye birina okuba programmed okupima akawuka kano akokubiri. So eyo naye advantage endala eri awo. Twagala tumanye procedures eza triaging ezateebwawo mu biseera bya COVID-19 okusobozesa okukuuma abasawo ku mirimu gyabwe nga balamu, nti omulwadde bw'atuuka ng'aliko obubonero obulaga nti yandiba ne Ebola mu biseera ebyo kyabanga COVID, oyo ng'ateebwa ku mabbali n'asobola okuba nti akebererwa bulungi, aleme genda kulaba musawo na musawo kumukwata kafuna obulwadde.
frontier town of Busia have spreading across the border. Everyone passing through the borders from the Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, South Sudan, and Uganda into Kenya have now
Following an outbreak of Ebola in the Ugandan town of Mubende, health authorities in the Kenyan frontier town of Busia have heightened surveillance in a bid to prevent the virus from spreading across the border. Everyone passing through the border from Democratic Republic of Congo, Burundi, South Sudan, and Uganda into Kenya now have to undergo screening at the border crossing.
So what's happening at the border is taking of the temperature, after which the clients fill a surveillance form. The surveillance form, basically, they fill in their personal details, their names.
If a person's body temperature were to exceed 37.8 degrees Celsius, they would be directed to a holding room at the border. If their temperature remained high, they would then be taken to an Ebola isolation center at the local hospital. But border officials say that despite having screened over 5,000 people since the first Ebola case was reported in Uganda about 2 weeks ago, no one has had to go to the center yet. Truck driver George Mwangi was traveling from Kenya to Uganda. He says he's afraid because he's heading to Uganda, leaving his family back, and if he gets Ebola, then that means his family will suffer and he will not be able to see them again. There is a heavy traffic at the border post, with many travelers and truck drivers passing through from neighboring countries, and the local residents in Busia are nervous. According to Lucas Odongo, one of the residents of Busia, says many people cross through this border, people from Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, and Tanzania. They plead to the government so that it can put strict measures in the press. If they don't put strict measures in the press, that means they will be greatly affected. So far, the screening seems to be working. Kenyan health officials said that there have been no cases of Ebola reported in the country, and the spread of the disease appears to be contained within Uganda. Dza Asimwe, GNTV at 12.
Thank you so much, Desire, for the details. And moving on, the trial of the former Guinea dictator known as Didas Camara and other former officials over the 28th September 2009 stadium massacre opened yesterday in the capital of Conakry. Dozens of victims who had waited 13 years for the proceedings packed the upper galleries of the proposal bill to the courtrooms. Let's have a look.
The trial of former Guinean dictator Moussa Dadis Camara and other former officials over the September 28, 2009 stadium massacre opened yesterday in the capital Conakry. Dozens of victims who had waited 13 years for the proceedings packed the upper galleries of the purpose-built courtroom. With crowds of journalists and officials below, they watched as Camara and 10 other former military and government officials standing trial entered the courtroom. The proceedings were broadcasted live on the national television. Camara, 58, and the other defendants face a litany of accusations from murder to sexual violence, kidnappings, arsons, and rootings, and Camara himself is charged with personal criminal responsibility and command responsibility over the crimes. On September 28, 2009, and in the day that followed, security forces loyal to the then junta leader slaughtered 156 people and raped at least 109 women who had gathered for a political rally in Conakry Stadium. The real figure are likely higher. Tens of thousands of opposition supporters had been peacefully demonstrating against the possible election bid by Camara, who had come to power in December 2008 before being sworn in as president. Numerous testimonies report how security forces entered the stadium, cordoned off the exits, and opened fire indiscriminately on a crowd that had previously been festive. The killers attacked unarmed civilians with knives, machetes, and bayonets, leaving the stands, corridors, and glass strewn with the dead and dying. They sexually assaulted and then killed many women. Others were trampled to death in the panic. International investigators found that abuses could qualify as crimes against humanity, noting the brutality went on for several days against sequestrated women and male detainees who were tortured. The chief prosecutors of the International Criminal Court, ICC, Karim Khan, yesterday called on Guinean authorities to respect international law, namely on witness protection and the presumption of innocence. Pramila Patten, a UN special representative, congratulated the ruling junta for its display of political will for moving ahead with the trial. Despite recurring commitments under former President Alpha Conde's regime, victims and relatives have been waiting more than a decade for the trial. Delays by those in power and the impunity for security forces that had become an institution, according to the commission, long cast doubt on the chances of the trial. Then the head of the current military junta, Kano Mamadi Doumbouya, who came to power in 2021 after 11 years of civilian rule, in January demanded the trial be held before the next anniversary date. Camara had been living in exile in Burkina Faso but returned to Conakry on Saturday to stand trials. Relatives say he intends to clear his name. The defendants were jailed on Tuesday and told they would be detained for the duration of the trial. Za Asimwe, GNTV News at 12. Relatives say he intends.
Regional representative for the Food and Agriculture Organization has told the delegates at the meeting in Nigeria that the sustainable solution of food is insecurity in peace. Adebe Haila Gabriela was in the capital of Abuja to discuss food security and the road to achieving the goal of zero hunger with the locals and stakeholders in Nigeria. Let's take a look.
The Africa Regional Representative for the Food and Agriculture Organization has told delegates at a meeting in Nigeria that the sustainability solution to food insecurity is peace. Abebe Haile Gabriel was in the capital Abuja to discuss food security and the road to achieving the goal of zero hunger with the local stakeholders.
Yes, the situation in Somalia, as I said, has been very dire. There has been drought for more than 4 years in a row, and this has really devastating impact on the livelihood of the people in Somalia.
The talks come just days after the United Nations warned that hundreds of thousands of people in Somalia are facing starvation. Severe drought in the Horn of Africa has destroyed crops and killed livestock on which the survival of people in the region depend. Haile Gabriel highlighted the fact that achieving food security required more than just assistance to farmers.
Has been in collaboration with some donor agencies, procure some fertilizers and make it available to the farmers in the region, in the affected region. But then this is not a sustainable solution. The sustainable solution is to find peace so that a normal life can continue.
Despite efforts to move past decades of drought and conflict, it is the third time in 10 years that Somalia has been threatened with a devastating famine. Speaking recently at the United Nations General Assembly, Somalia's President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud called on the country's partners to do everything possible to help avert the famine, which also threatens the wider Horn of Africa region. Za Asimwe, GNTV at 12.
For the details, for now, allow us to go for a short break. We shall resume with the bulletin.
This is GNTV, releasing life.
Bitu wawaga urire
amachi
amakage birebi
gabachi
nigatishirwa habatweje film productions nakazano kawe nyamurungi nikashangwa ha GNTV
bwirechi
urwo kubanza no rwa kabiri shahemwe necweka zo mwebazyo otaferwa agawe gargatoko baramukazi nereze rwo mushije wawe